Hello gang, Tattooed Biker here with you, and tonight I've got two more encounter stories with upright cryptid canines or dogman like cryptids. There seems to have been a real surge in these lately, and well, I'm working on clearing my docket, so to speak. First up tonight, a Michigan man and his daughter are driving to a camping destination when they see a man in the road transform into a huge canine. And then I have yet another Pennsylvania witness, along with his two brothers, and they have one of the most bizarre and fantastic encounters that I've ever read. It's going to get weird this evening, and it's about that time. So grab your gear, and let's ride. Number 1. Dear Biker, this happened when I was on my way to go camping and had just crossed the Mackinac Bridge to get to Michigan's Upper Peninsula. It was storming and had just started pouring buckets of rain. And it was the kind of rain that forces you to put the windshield wipers on full speed and you still have to slow way down and then strain your eyes to be able to see. While driving up a hill, my daughter and we see a man standing in the middle of the road. There wasn't great visibility with the sheets of rain, but we both pointed out the man standing in the middle of the road, and we were worried that he might be hit by a car. That's when he turned and bent, and then it was suddenly not a man. It was a huge black dog. We both thought it was a man at first, and then it was a dog, and, well, I just can't explain it. It could have been just a combination of looking up from the bottom of a hill in the rain, but I think it's odd that my daughter and I both could have sworn that we saw a man standing there first. I stopped on the side of the road to help it, and so did a man on the other side in a truck. Now, I'm a dog groomer and always have slip leads in the truck. I love dogs and I always stop to help when I see one on the road, but I hoped that someone else would be able to help it because, well, my truck was stuffed with camping gear, and the only place it could go would have been the front seat with my daughter and me. It was still there in the middle of the road looking back and forth between the man and me. I was a bit surprised to see how big it was up close. I also felt uneasy and intimidated by this animal. It almost looked like a black German shepherd, but much, much bigger and very wolf-like. Now, I've been around a lot of big dogs in my profession, and if I had to guess, I would say that it was a German Shepherd wolf hybrid. The guy yelled over, asking if it was my dog, and I answered no. The dog was still in the middle of the road, just staring back and forth between the man and me. Now, in my head, I was repeating, "Don't pick me, please don't pick me," over and over because, well, I had no room in my truck, and I didn't want a giant, strange dog that I thought was a person sitting next to me and my child, and it just gave me the creeps. The man then yelled, "Here, boy," and patted his leg, and the dog ran off to him. Seeing the dog was being taken care of, I got back in my truck and got back on the road, headed to our camping destination. My daughter was telling me how it looked like a person standing there in the road, and then it turned into a dog. We were both still very confused. If it had been just me, I would think that it was the driving rain and my imagination, but my daughter saw it as well. I don't know if this is paranormal, supernatural, or what, but it definitely was an interesting experience, and I wanted to share. Thanks. Signed, Oscar. Number 2. Dear TB, I wanted to tell you about the time when I had a run-in with a dog man, I guess, but it was kind of a dog woman when I was 15. I'm 29 now, so I want to say it was around the year 2011. And this took place in Rogersville, Pennsylvania in Greene County. We lived in a double-wide that my parents had converted into a little cozy home, complete with a basement. The only neighbors we had at the time were the high school, which was literally walking distance down the road, and a farmer who was a little further down the other way. Now, we've lived in a rural area for most of our lives, Behind our house was thick, dense woods, and in front of our house was a big yard with a papas grass bush down by the driveway. And to the side of our house was an open field with lush green grass and an apple tree. There was also a creek and a stone bridge that was attached to our driveway. Now this happened in the middle of winter. We were right in the middle of Christmas break from school. Christmas was literally just days away. My mom worked overnight as an LPN, and my dad worked overnight as a fuel truck dispatcher. So my brothers, Zach, Wyatt, and I had the whole house to ourselves for the night. I was in the living room watching Larva on my laptop on a TV tray in front of our living room recliner, feeling a little tired. I'd had weightlifting practice earlier and had just gotten home. My brother Zach was lying on the couch. He had a rerun of lost tapes on the big screen TV in our living room. He's been big into paranormal since we were little kids. All around him, he was having an absolute junk food buffet. On either hand were both halves of a huge meatball hoagie from the little convenience store in town. 2 more hoagies were on the coffee table in front of him. He was a big guy at 250 pounds and in a heavyweight class in wrestling, so he was allowed to indulge a little bit. I was around 170 pounds and had to work my butt off to keep my lean and mean physique. Wyatt was in his room, playing Kirby Mass Attack on his Nintendo DS. He didn't do any sports, so he was usually home before us or was at play practice. He was a big theater kid. Halfway through my episode of Larva, my brother Zach lets out the biggest gasp of excitement. He just gets this big smile on his face, sits up on the couch, and starts getting giddy. I ask him what's got him so excited, and he just points at the living room window without saying a word. I turned around in the recliner to see what he was looking at, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Right there, standing on our porch, was just a beast of a creature, with her face smashed up against the window. Now, I've watched enough Monster Quest and other paranormal shows with my brother Zach to know exactly what every cryptid is supposed to look like by heart at this point. And this would have been what's called a Dogman, I guess. But I say her because, well, she was definitely a female. Her hot breath was fogging up the window, and her bright blue eyes was locked right on the junk food buffet that Zach had going on. Her legs were really muscular. Imagine the big muscly legs and quads of some of those female bodybuilders, and then double or maybe even triple that. Her biceps even had biceps. She was very, big-chested, and she was super strong looking in the stomach as well. She must have been at least 7, maybe even 8 feet tall. Her head was nearly scraping up our porch awning. She had to kneel down quite a bit to even look in the window. She had silver, gray, bushy fur like a coyote. Her eyes were bright blue, though. And I'm just sitting there, on the verge of a full breakdown, as I watched this unbelievable scene play out in front of me. My heart was pounding in my chest like it was about to burst. And then Zach asked her if she wanted a snack, even shaking both halves of the meatball hoagie in the air a bit. To my surprise, this beast lets out a begging sound and actually gave puppy dog eyes like a dog does when it sees you eating dinner. So Zach gets up, grabs the other hoagies, and runs into the kitchen to grab some of the massive mounds of packs of hot dogs that are in our fridge. There had been a big sale on them. Mom and Dad had gone hunting crazy, and Mom bought a bunch for some reason that week, even though we probably wouldn't use them all up in time before they went bad. I look at him like he's out of his mind because I know he's not about to go out there. I start to get up to follow him, and I'm yelling at him not to do what I think he's about to do. Now all this commotion eventually lured Wyatt out of his room, and he's asking what the hell is going on. He quickly put 2 and 2 together and tried to help me hold back Zach from bull rushing the door, fearing nothing at the moment, I guess, like any sane person would. But sadly, he outweighed both of us, with Wyatt not being much bigger than me. He easily barreled past us and out onto the porch, wearing nothing but his Star Wars t-shirt, some pajamas, and a pair of slippers. We huddled up against the living room window. fully prepared to watch our beloved brother be mauled by a monster right before our eyes and not being able to stop it. But to our surprise, it never happened. He just kept going, "Dalton, Wyatt, this is the best day ever," as he was feeding this thing hot dogs from one of the packs. It just caught them in the air with its mouth like a dog. Me and Wyatt were both yelling at him to get his ass back in the house. And then to our horror and Zach's excitement, 2 more of these dog women emerged from either side of the house and came up to the porch also, begging for food. They were smaller than the first one, only coming up to the first one's shoulders. These 2 were also very, big-chested again. The one was kind of thick with some very muscular and powerful legs, but not anything anywhere near like the first one had. The other one was on a very slim, lean side. They had grayish-brown fur with a reddish tinge behind the ears and around the face. These, however, had eyes like a coyote, the yellowish-brown type. We're really pounding on the living room window and yelling at him to come back inside. Zach's just having a ball out there. The first one had gobbled down all 3 subs in nearly a single bite, so he's down to tossing hot dogs like crazy. They were getting pretty antsy too, and they kept making these weird screams you hear them make on online videos. They were letting him even pet them, but I can't stress enough, my brother was literally mere inches away from a grisly death. They were making these unholy sounding growling sounds and snapping at the air and at each other when one would get too many hot dogs. Zach's hand nearly got snapped a time or 2. They even pawed at the air in front of his face to get his attention when he was focusing on one for too long, nearly slashing his face to shreds if they had pawed any closer. Zach didn't even seem to mind, though. He was having a blast. Eventually, the loud roar of a snowplow truck coming down the road scared them off, and it was a good thing, too. He was nearly out of hot dogs, and I hate to think what would have happened after that. The 3 of them took off into the field as fast as the wind. They were so fast we couldn't hardly even keep track of them. They were just like blurs. Wyatt and I gave Zach a good ass-kicking when he got back inside and warned him to never, ever do that again. We 3 still talk about that day. I just wanted to share. Signed, Derek. Quick narrator's note here. When I first read the report, I was a bit skeptical. I actually held it back because, some of these still surprise even me. I received it almost 2 months ago, but after receiving a slate of other Dogman reports from Greene County, Pennsylvania, I'm now inclined to believe this witness. And if you've seen my last video, then you know that this area is pretty well known for cryptid canine activity. Well, there you have it. 2 more cryptid canine or Dogman-like creature reports. So I'm anxious to hear what you think about these 2 encounter stories down in the comments below, but please, keep it respectful to the witnesses. And if you have any unexplained experiences or strange encounters that you'd like to share, just send them to the email address in the description, and then your story may just wind up in a future video. Anyways, thanks so much for riding with me tonight. I really appreciate you. And as always, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll be seeing you on down the road a ways. Biker out.